The NFL season kicks off in 2 weeks, and one of the most talked about players may not even take the field. Colin Kaepernick is a free agent, means no team. Because of that, hundreds of protesters flooded the streets outside the NFL headquarters in New York to show solidarity to Kaepernick, famous, of course, for kneeling during the national anthem last season. Many people believe the NFL is blackballing Kaepernick for expressing his political views.
The NFL is 70% people of color. They need the black and brown community. So to blackball Colin Kaepernick, that's not in their best interest, and at the same time, it's just absolutely wrong.
Obviously, the NFL thinks he's bad for business, obviously. We all know NFL is an $11 billion organization.
He's not yelling or screaming or being disrespectful. He's just bringing attention to a very important issue. They have a problem with it.
All right, with me now, the former president of the NFL Players Association, former defensive end for the New York Giants, George Martin. George, thanks so much for being with us. Why isn't Colin Kaepernick on a football team?
Well, thank you very much, John. First of all, I think the NFL has its own subjective and, in many cases, objective ways of determining talent. Far be it for me to say why they are or are not inviting Colin into camp, but it seems very suspicious that a man of his talents, who has great postseason experience, has great leadership. And by the way, when you have a quarterback position, you tend to look for characteristics that he's displaying: strong commitment, leadership, and I think courage. And that's what he's displaying with his stance.
You don't question whether or not he's a good enough football player to be on an NFL team right now. You just think he is.
Oh, absolutely. I know unequivocally that he has the talent to be on a team, maybe not as a starter, but certainly as a backup.
Then the question becomes, are these teams looking at that and their decision to bring him on maybe doesn't have to be a statement saying we disapprove of him taking the knee last year during the national anthem. What some people suggest is these teams are saying we just don't want the controversy that surrounds it inside our locker room.
Well, it's unfortunate they would take either one of those positions because, again, I think that to be a professional athlete, as I was for 14 years, it should be predicated on talent and talent alone. And he has demonstrated that he has those abilities, and to be blackballed or to be shut out or shunned because of his political statements, I think is wrong.
Even if the coach or the general manager is saying that his abilities would help us win, but the controversy may get in the way of winning.
I don't see how the controversy can get in the way of them winning. I mean, once the turnstiles are open and people come in, it's football. They're playing football, and he's performing on the field as an athlete, not as a politician or making a statement beyond the national anthem.
You heard some of those protesters out there suggesting the NFL, writ large, had somehow decided to keep Kaepernick out. Do you think there's any collusion here, or do you think it's really individual teams deciding the same thing?
I don't think there's any grand conspiracy there because teams are independent enough where they can make their own decisions, and I don't think that any mandate would come down from Roger Goodell to keep him out of the league.
The players' union, you know, players in general, what's their role right now? What should they be doing in your mind in support, if you think that's what's important in Colin Kaepernick?
I definitely think there should be a loud voice of support coming out of Washington, the NFL Players Association. It should be, because that's what we have the unions for, to protect and safeguard our profession. And I'm not hearing that right now, but I think it will over time.
Why Colin Kaepernick when a dozen guys from the Cleveland Browns took the knee in a game just a few days ago? You know, they did it. They're playing. Why isn't Colin Kaepernick?
Well, you know, John, I'll go back in history. When you look at what happened with the 1968 Olympics with John Carlos and the guys, when you look at Muhammad Ali, when you look at even Paul Robeson, they were all persecuted for making a social stance. And history did something unique. It went back in retrospect and has deemed them all heroes. And I think that a similar situation will be done in Colin's case. In retrospect, people will look and see what a courageous thing he's done, what a tremendous sacrifice he's made, and I hope he will be vindicated.
You know, a lot of teams need quarterbacks, that's for sure, and this goes way beyond football. George Martin, an honor to have you here with us. Thanks.